Hey everyone, today we're going to rework all of the bad iridescent killer add-ons of DBD. Eerie add-ons are the rarest add-ons in the game and are meant to have strong and unique or gameplay changing effects. However, many are plainly bad, or just too niche to really get value from. So today I'm going to try and fix all of the add-ons I think are problematic. Let's get into it. Our first three killers, Trapper, Wraith, and Billy, all have pretty solid Eerie's I'd say. So our first problematic Eerie appears on Nurse and is called Matchbox, an add-on that currently reduces Nurse's blinks to just one charge, but does cause her to move slightly faster at 4.4 meters per second. This is a bad trade-off. I do quite like the structure and trade-off of this add-on though, so I want to simply suggest that we add an additional benefit. When Nurse blinks through a window, she now blocks it for 10 seconds say, and going over a pallet breaks it, on top of these two other effects. Therefore robbing her of a blink feels more justified, and some could even get an advantage out of this. Next we move on to Myers. He got reworked recently and so he has pretty solid add-ons. However, one of his original meme add-ons, Scratched Mirror, actually became iridescent. I'd argue this does not deserve to be iridescent and should return to being purple maybe. In place of this, I'd like to suggest a new add-on, Original Blade. This add-on doubles the duration of Slaughtering Strike, however it takes twice as long to charge it and has double the recovery time, making it highly deadly but holding a great cost. Next we move to Hag and her add-on Waterlogged Shoe, another add-on that feels more fitting to be a meme add-on over an iridescent one, with it removing your teleport ability entirely and replacing it with an anti-loop trap power and additional move speed. I also don't like how this add-on stops you from pairing up both Eerie's, with them actually cancelling each other out. I think this should be scrapped and changed into a lower tier rarity add-on, a brown meme add-on potentially. A new effect I think could be cool is to make her traps no longer break upon being triggered, with them instead going on cooldown for 30 seconds say, before reactivating. The downside, as I think one would be needed here, is she starts the trial with only 7 traps instead of 10. Both Doctor and Bubba's add-ons are fine I think, which brings us next to Huntress and her add-on Soldier's Puttee, an add-on which has maybe one of the most pathetic Eerie effects in the game, simply allowing you to move at the regular walk speed when out of hatchets. The one benefit it does have is that it has pretty solid synergy with Iridescent Head. I do like this idea too of synergy, so I want to work with it. You start off at Huntress's base movement speed when at 7 hatchets, so 4.4, and for each hatchet thrown, your movement speed is increased by 0.04 meters per second, making you gradually faster the lower your hatchets go, and even making you ever so slightly faster than a 4.6 killer when completely out of hatchets. This seems like a good trade-off. Freddy is next and most definitely a problem with 2 bad Eerie's. Red Paintbrush is actually a detriment debatably, having a positive effect but then also increasing the survivor sleep meter, meaning it takes them longer to fall asleep. The upside is you're able to see the auras of survivors beyond 32 meters from you, which is very strong. However, currently this effect very rarely procs. I'd argue the downside here should be removed entirely, and the range should be adjusted to 40 meters instead, almost like having a persistent barbecue for asleep survivors. That seems fair. Black Box is the other add-on and is more of a meme add-on to be honest, with it blocking the exit gates for asleep survivors for 15 seconds after being opened, like a mini Blood Warden. A cool idea, but pretty bad in most cases. I'd suggest this one should apply to both awake and asleep survivors, and also activate not when the exit gates are opened, but instead only when a survivor steps past the exit gate entry point. Once that boundary is crossed, that's when they get blocked, allowing it to be an actual trap of sorts, and also punishing teams who 99 the gates, working on an individual basis as well. The next killer along is Pig, and she has some interesting Eerie add-ons. Amanda's Letter is the only one I think needs reworking though. This add-on allows you to see the auras of nearby survivors when crouched, but takes away 2 of your traps. This add-on is fine in theory, but is very punishing due to the removal of the 2 traps. I think it needs an extra bonus therefore. And so I think buffing Pig's stealth would aid this a lot too, with its focus already being on an improved crouch mode. so I think after standing up once more, she should gain the undetectable status for an additional 10 seconds, allowing her to be twice as stealthy and make better use of the aura information. So this sort of aids her going for grabs and that kind of thing. The next killer is Clown, with Redhead's Pinky Finger, an add-on that used to be one of Clown's best, with it allowing you to insta-down survivors who are directly hit with a bottle. However, it caps your bottle numbers to just 1, which is very punishing. I'd say this effect should be scrapped, as it makes you play weirdly and just isn't a healthy add-on. Instead, I want to suggest something maybe a bit OP, but we'll see. Whenever a pink cloud appears from the bottles, it causes all windows within its cloud to be blocked until the cloud dissipates. The use of this being that you can pre-throw bottles to block windows, or simply more conveniently shut down loops. Next we move to Spirit. She has one great Eerie, but her other, Kintsugi Teacup, is pretty mid, only recharging your ability upon breaking a pallet or wall. This is average but super boring. To keep it related though, I want to suggest the ability for Spirit to be able to phase through pallets and windows, and maybe even breakable walls. However, as soon as she does, she gets instantly kicked out of her phase, allowing for momentary benefit but potential for loss of value if this is used poorly. Both Legion and Plague's Eerie's are solid, I think, which brings us up to Ghostface and his Eerie, Ghostface Caught on Tape, an add-on which recharges Night Shroud after putting a survivor into the dying state. This, a bit like Spirit's one, is just a bit dull for an Eerie, I think. I've always liked the idea of an add-on that removes the range of your stalking, allowing you to do it with infinite distance. But as this add-on is also about Ghosty being caught on tape, I think it could also have the ability of, if a survivor looks at you, they no longer hear the reveal noise, so they're unsure of whether they're actually doing it. So infinite stalk range and no reveal noise, which is that wee sound. Demogorgon follows on and has one sort of mid add-on, I'd say, which is Red Moss. This add-on aims to make you quieter and retain stealth after coming out of the portals. For one, I'd just remove the downside, where it takes longer to emerge, and then from here I think undetectable should remain until you hit someone, or break a pallet, or something like that. Just let you be stealthy as a reward for using the portals. This may seem strong, but I mean, it's an Eerie, and it's still not that busted. Oni is next and has two really bad Eerie's, to be honest. Renjiro's Bloody Glove is very interesting though, with it altering your power into sort of an information-based one. When survivors walk over blood orbs, you see their aura for 2 seconds, and survivors can see blood orbs as well. This is bad though because survivors actually consume the blood orbs when walking over them, essentially robbing you of blood fury. So here's my suggestion. Blood orbs are now visible from any range as the Oni, allowing you to track injured survivors and even locate where they might be stopped to heal. This being an incredible tracking and pressure tool, with blood orbs disappearing as usual when blood fury is active. So no downside, and the tracking is beneficial but not entirely reliable. Iridescent Family Crest is Oni's other add-on, and another one that's actually really cool, but sucks. This add-on will make survivors within 24 meters scream whenever you miss a slam attack during Blood Fury. I don't get why this is just a miss though, and also don't understand why it's a scream really either, as it's quite easy to miss this information. To keep this idea intact though, I want to suggest instead that this works as an informational tool. When slamming and missing during Blood Fury, all survivors within your terror radius are revealed with an aura for 6 seconds. Further, your terror radius during Blood Fury is raised to 48 meters, this making for a far more consistent tracking power, but equally with its downsides, having a much larger warning range. We now move on to Deathslinger, who has the particularly bad Hellshire Iron. Currently this add-on makes you undetectable whilst reeling a survivor and for 10 seconds afterwards. It's just terrible, to be honest, such a weird time to apply stealth. To keep it still as a stealth add-on though, I want to suggest it instead provides undetectable when aiming down sight, and further extends the Redeemer's chain length to 24 meters up from 18, allowing you to ADS and approach quietly, but also nail a target from a longer distance away. I think this could be really fun, and kind of similar to Old Slinger. Both Pyramid Head and Blight, I'd say, have solid iridescent add-ons and need no changes. This brings us up to Twins and their super average add-on Iridescent Pendant, an add-on which applies the exposed status onto any survivor who kicks Victor when he's idle, which is pretty rare, and this add-on is largely only used to try and trick or trap survivors. It'd be fun as a purple or green maybe. I think it's a fun effect though, and could be a slightly reworked to just include Victor getting kicked at any any point in time, so if he gets kicked whilst being controlled, the survivor becomes exposed as well. Or potentially even all survivors within 12 meters of the kick get exposed for 45 seconds, punishing the wider team. We next reach Trickster, who just got his rework and so gets a big old tick. Nemesis follows on, and his are also pretty bad, but honestly just need some slight number adjustments. Shattered Stars badge, for example, is a cool idea for an add-on, giving Nemesis's zombies a huge buff to their speed after a gen pops. However, it could definitely use more, and specifically buff the zombies more. I want to suggest the zombies move instead at 250% speed, which means they move at slightly slower than the base survivor move speed, requiring survivors to constantly move if nearby to a zombie, or otherwise they get hit. This will still mean that you can dodge the zombies, blind them, or avoid them, but they're a much larger threat than before. During this 60-second window, zombies will also recover from being blinded, meaning you can only hinder them very temporarily. Iridescent Umbrella badge currently makes survivors who use a vaccine exposed for 60 seconds. This is super mid and activates exposed at a time when you're probably far away and the survivor is safe, and it's just not the best status for a character who largely uses his M2. Therefore I want to suggest an alteration, although keep the same focus of the vaccines. Only one vaccine spawns into the trial now, but it has 4 charges, meaning it has to be passed from survivor to survivor, making it awkward and take extra time. When the vaccine is dropped, it causes all survivors within 10 meters to be revealed with Killer Instinct and become exposed for 30 seconds, so this makes the vaccines a lot more dangerous. Pinhead has some very solid add-ons that don't need to be reworked. That brings us up to Artist, who has 2 bad add-ons. Garden of Rot, which makes a survivor exposed for 4 seconds after repelling a crow swarm, is one of these. This has potential to catch a survivor off guard maybe once, but afterwards it's quickly useless. I want to suggest something a little odd, but I think it's fun, giving focus to the repelling of crows, like the original add-on, but changing it somewhat. If you disturb a crow whilst affected by a crow swarm, it removes 25% of the repel progress. This provides the artist with more time than usual to hit you, but as a survivor you can also sort of avoid this by dodging crows, which I think would be fun. Artist's other add-on is Iridescent Feather. This add-on is truly awful, making it so Artist becomes undetectable whenever she runs out of her crows, and she also loses a crow. It's like double bad. However, I do like the stealth aspect, so let's lean into that. When placing a crow, it's completely silent, and when firing a crow, it's also now silent as well, giving the survivors no indication a crow is coming, unless they have line of sight, rewarding long-range play. Further, we keep the downside of one crow being removed, making it far harder to hit multiple survivors in one go. After firing a crow, the artist moves 5% faster for 5 seconds now too, allowing her to close the gap. We now reach Sadako, who has really terrible add-ons as well. Although for her, it's sort of a case of her power also just not being the best, so her add-on's struggling because of that. Iridescent Videotape though is so bad. It's basically a meme add-on currently, with it removing your ability to apply Condemn through teleporting to TVs. It exchanges this for the ability to not turn off TVs after teleporting, which is a bad trade simply. I think this add-on could just work similarly to how old Sadako worked, where if you're holding a tape, then Condemned slowly progresses, maybe like a bar a minute. If you're hit with the tape in hand, then you instantly gain 2 stacks of Condemned. This could make it suitably deadly. Sadako's other add-on, Remote Control, is also very bad, with it revealing survivor auras who are nearby to TVs after teleporting to them. I think this is a pretty decent idea, but the effect just isn't strong enough to warrant it being iridescent. I want to suggest a more fleshed out add-on that maybe plays into it being named Remote Control as well. It has 2 abilities. The first is called Rewind Button, and lets you press your ability button after teleporting to return back through the TV you just walked through, letting you change your mind. This only being an option for 10 seconds after teleporting though. The second ability is called Pause Button, which allows you to pause all interactions with TVs for 10 seconds, stopping survivors from picking up or returning tapes at preferable times. I think this could be really interesting. Dredge follows on, also having 2 not so great add-ons. The first I'd say is passable though, being Iridescent Wooden Plank, an add-on which makes survivors exposed for the final 12 seconds of Nightfall. I could see this being solid if it were just a bit more, say 24 seconds, just double it. I'd say then it's pretty solid. Dredge's other add-on is called Sacrificial Knife, and it blocks vault locations within 16 meters after exiting a locker during Nightfall. I want to suggest a full rework for this one, with it becoming instead a stealth add-on. This add-on I suggest should simply make locker teleports entirely silent, so the survivors are unable to know when you're coming until the locker actually pops open. This could be fun I think as a survivor too, and would make for some really scary jump scare moments. Both of Wesker's add-ons are fine, so he gets a tick. That brings us up to Knight. I'd say he just has one truly bad Eerie, which is Torn Contract, an add-on which lets a guard linger for 8 seconds after completing an action. It can sort of situationally be useful. I think a fun add-on, but one that may be a little too strong, would be one where you can spawn in all guards at once. This would still mean they all have a cooldown, but you'd be able to have multiple in play at the same time, theoretically allowing you to have 4 chases going on, but obviously this wouldn't last too long, as the guards don't chase for that long, and also no overlapping chases. This brings us up to Skull Merchant, who has just one bad Eerie I'd say, with the other being decent enough. This is Iridescent Unpublished Manuscript, and is a cool add-on, but one which just isn't very strong. This add-on makes it so whenever a drone is disabled, you gain undetectable for 15 seconds, and the drone emits a terror radius. I do like this a lot, so I think this idea should remain intact. My only change I want to suggest is that you get control over it instead of relying on a drone deactivating. Whilst looking at a drone, press the active ability button to trigger the add-on, shifting your terror radius onto the selected drone, and becoming undetectable, with this lasting 30 seconds, and having a 30-second cooldown once complete. We next move on to the Singularity and his add-on Iridescent Crystal Shard, an add-on which again isn't entirely awful but just not the best. It reveals survivors within 10 meters whenever you shoot out a biopod. This can be used for information but is hardly reliable, I'd argue. This is maybe a slightly overpowered suggestion, but I want to suggest this still. Biopods now function automatically without the need to control them. If a survivor is within the vision of a biopod, they are slipstreamed, although this takes twice as long than when done manually. Biopod numbers are also capped to just 4. This could be fun I think, giving automation to your power, but also having a clear downside of removing half of your biopods. It would certainly cause more passive pressure, but could be worse in some cases too. Next up we have Xenomorph. Xeno has one decent add-on and a bad one I'd argue, which is Acidic Blood. Again though, really cool idea. When stunned within 20 seconds of exiting a tunnel, the survivor who stuns you gets damaged. It's a really cool add-on, but it so rarely gets any value or activation really, and so it's also a little bit pointless to run this. It's such a niche situation for this to happen in, especially as most survivors tend to pre-drop against Xenomorphs due to their tail attack. I think this add-on could honestly just be permanent for the match. It maybe sounds a bit OP that way, but again, it's a fairly rare situation to get stunned to Xeno, so it works I reckon if the add-on is just permanently active, and if you get stunned, the survivor is damaged or deep wounded. This is in keeping with Xeno lore accuracy too, which I think is fun. We follow on with Chucky, who has the pretty mid hard hat. This add-on simply breaks pallets after scampering under them. Scamper isn't used much around pallets though I'd say, and more so on windows, so I want to add in an additional effect here for windows too, which is that when scampering over a window, it blocks it for the next 10 seconds. Just another little edge. This add-on isn't super bad after all, it's just very mid. So now we're on to Unknown. Unknown has just one fairly bad add-on, which is Captured by the Dark. This add-on is another which applies an effect onto all the survivors at the start of the trial. In this case, it's Weakened. This add-on weirdly gets slapped with a really silly downside of permanently removing one of your hallucinations from the trial. I'd say just remove this, and it's good to go as an area again. Starting out with all survivors weakened is not that huge of a buff really, at least not to warrant a downside. All survivors have to do is look at you, so just remove the downside. Vecna is next and doesn't necessarily have a bad add-on, but Vorpal Sword is a little mid, with it trading out your pallet lift for a pallet break with Mage Hand, which is good but it takes quite long at 4 seconds. My suggestion here is just a reduction to 3 seconds, and also doubling the duration of Broken for the add-on's secondary effect with the Dispelling Sphere. Dracula's next, and he's got the pretty mid but interesting Alucard Shield. This add-on has the really cool effect of causing tons of pillars of fire to spawn in the exit gates during the endgame. This is great but lacks viability for most of the match, and even at the end of the match it rarely seems to work well. I want to suggest this add-on is merged with the Cube of Zoe, an add-on which causes Dracula to spawn fire pillars around himself for 10 seconds whenever a gen pops. I think this would really even out the add-on and make it more consistent and fun. Houndmaster and Kaneki both get a tick from me with solid add-ons, which brings us up to Springtrap. I'd say neither of Springtrap's add-ons feel that iridescent, so I've got some suggestions for the both of them. Iridescent Remnant is first up and has the very detrimental effect, I'd say, of causing all upright pallets within 32 meters of the security door you teleport to get blocked for 12 seconds. This is bad because it often tells the survivors you're coming sooner than they would have known before, with it blocking the pallets slightly before, often giving them a head start. I want to suggest a completely new add-on, and one which may be a little strong, but hey, these are Eries. Nice and simple too, Springtrap gets 2 throwable axes instead of just 1, but the axe loses its ability to detect with Killer Instinct. This allows for high potential in chase, but does rob you slightly of an information ability. It's also to stop you from using the axes to 3-gen and stuff like that. Springtrap also has Faz-Coin. This add-on makes your axe emit a terror radius when thrown. This is a fun idea, but it only gives you undetectable for 10 seconds. I'd say this could just be permanent undetectable until either a survivor gets rid of the axe or until you choose to retrieve it. You can simply place your terror radius onto another area of the map. I think that could be a fair and solid trade-off. Next then we have Krasu. Her add-ons are generally pretty good as well, but I'd say Shredded Gown could use some help, with it being sort of a strange aura-based information add-on. This add-on reveals the auras of survivors who are within 8 meters of a glowing fungus or holding one for 5 seconds. The idea being that you can target them, presumably. This is pretty mid though. I'd like to double the aura range to 16 meters and then make it instead so when a fungus is consumed, the survivor who consumed it becomes exposed for the next 30 seconds. Finally we have Vecna, who gets a tick. He's all good. Alright, well that's gonna do it. I do hope you enjoyed, and let me know your ideas as well down below. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.